it'll be the end of the story if there is no relief.
We'd shut shop.
You will shut shop, which means you'll
Absolutely.
go down the NCLT route.
I guess so.
I welcome you all to this new video on the Indian Telecom Crisis. But before I go on to explaining the crisis, I think it's really important to know a little bit of history. Because the thing here is, this crisis started with the inception of our great telecom industry. Now, I'm not going to quiz you all on what exactly the first clip of the video was about. It was the clip of the first phone call made in India and was between then Bengal Chief Minister late Jyoti Basu and then Union Telecom Minister Sukram. So it all starts in the year 1994 when the National Telecom Policy was introduced, which allowed for private companies a stake in the sweet telecom space. Now, of course, this too faced some backlash. In 1996, we see that Delhi Science Forum put one case against the government of India and was like sensitive nature of telecommunications mandating that it should not be placed in the hands of the private sector, and any step in this direction would basically endanger the national security of the country. But still, nothing really happened. Also, I don't think I should be saying this, but we wanted to clarify that DSF are not some bad people from what I could see on their website. So cut to 34 licenses were issued. The term of the license was fixed at 10 years, which was then revised to 15 years. The service providers had to pay an annual license fee, which was agreed upon during the auction of the license. And please to remember this fee was based on the projection of revenue generation by Department of Telecommunications, that is DOT. After the issue of cellular licenses, 6 of the service providers were in default due to non-payment of license fee by the early 1997. By the year 1998, the number of defaulters increased to 8. The Bureau of Industry Cost and Prices, BICP, was requested to look into the matter. The BICP, after investigation, reported that 13 operators were running in loss. According to the BICP report, the telecom service providers were running in loss because of the high license fee, interconnection charges, and spectrum usage charges imposed by the DOT. Later, in 1999, the TRAI studied the cellular operators. The study showed that main reasons for the financial failure of the telecom service providers were heavy capital investment for setting up infrastructure, which was underutilized, number of subscribers lower than projected, third being the average revenue per person, ARPU, was lower than the cost incurred by the service providers. Fourth, significant amount of the finances of the service providers were used to pay license fees. And lastly, optional charges also took a toll on the service providers. In 1999, a new NTP was launched by the Airtel government, which we shall call the migration package. Why? Let's get to that. Under the new scheme, a license fees was collected as proportional tax on the service provider's revenue. 8% of revenue for license fee and 2 to 5% of revenue for spectrum charges. Now, all this sounded nice back then. It gave a nice relief to the telecom sector, but only for a short while, because no one was really clear about this revenue thing. That is, enter the elephant in the room, AGR. The telecom service providers claim that AGR should comprise just the revenue from the core services and not dividend, interest income, or profit on sale of any investment of fixed assets. And Government of India was like, nah, we need everything. Now, before we delve into the timeline of court cases on court cases, let me give you a quick summary of this umpire called TDSAT, that is, Telecom Dispute Settlement and Appellate Tribunal, an important honorable entity in this story. The TDSAT was established in 2000 under an amendment to the TRAI Act 1997. The TDSAT has been vested with exclusive powers to adjudicate any dispute between the licensor, that's the DOT, service providers and group of customers. Any appeal from the decision of the TDSAT can be filed only with the Supreme Court. Cut to 2005. Cellular Operators Association of India, COAI, moved the TDSAT challenging the definition of AGR. The tribunal observed that in defining what would constitute AGR, there was no proper consideration of the recommendations by the TRAI as required under the provisions to Section 11(1) of the TRAI Act 1997, as the Department of Telecommunications, that's DOT, had declined to accept the TRAI recommendations on the basis of a consultation paper submitted by a private, non-statutory body, consultant engaged by the government that was not brought to the notice of TRAI. Tribunal then asked TRAI to consider which specific heads of inflow should or should not form part of AGR. Following were TRAI's recommendations. First, the revenue from rent of towers, dark fiber should be part of AGR. Second, sale of handsets or telecom equipment bundled with telecom service providers should be part of AGR. Sounds all nice for the DOT, right? Let's get to the second part of this. Income from dividend, revenue on account of sale of immovable property, security, warrants or debt instruments, other items or fixed assets, revenue from property rent, revenue from discernible and standalone sale of handset or telecom equipment which is not bundled with the telecom service, and more should not be part of AGR, which really upset the DOT. Now we go on to the timeline of court cases on court cases. The Government of India took the previous 2006 TDSAT's judgment to the Supreme Court of India. When the Supreme Court of India was apprised of the submission of the TRAI report to the tribunal, it dismissed the appeal preferred by the Union of India. Then, on 30 August 2007, TDSAT accepted the recommendations of TRAI in regard to most of the heads, while declining to accept the recommendations in regard to a few heads of revenue. Then Government of India went to the Supreme Court, to which Supreme Court was like, TRAI and the TDSAT has no jurisdiction to decide on the validity of the definition of adjusted gross revenue in the license agreement. After this, all major telecom operators, perhaps with the sole exception of Vodafone, also filed petitions before the High Courts challenging the validity of the definition of AGR as incorporated in the licenses on exactly the same ground, amongst others, as was earlier raised before the tribunal. Cut to 2015. The issue concerning the definition of AGR was once again agitated before the TDSAT. The TDSAT, in its ruling dated 23 April 2015, held that the revenue term in the license was no different from its corresponding definition in the Accounting Standard 9, that's AS9. As per AS9, revenue is the gross inflow of cash, receivables, or other consideration arising in the course of ordinary activities of an enterprise from the sale of goods, from the rendering of services, and from the use by others of enterprise resources, yielding interest, royalties, and dividends. TDSAT stated the case in favor of telecom companies and held that AGR includes all receipts except capital receipts and revenue from non-core sources such as rent, profit on the sale of fixed assets, dividend, interest, and miscellaneous. We then fly to October 2019, where the matter is once again in the Supreme Court, and they upheld the DOT's definition of AGR and said since the licensee had agreed to the migration packages, they were liable to pay the dues, the penalty on dues, the interest on penalty due to delay in payments, and gave the telcos 3 months to clear their AGR dues. In November 2019, telcos filed for a review petition, and by January, we knew the dues weren't getting cleared in the time given by the Supreme Court. Now in the September of 2020, the Supreme Court gives the telcos 10 years time to pay their AGR dues, and added that telcos shall make the payment of 10% of the total dues as demanded by the DOT by March 31st, 2021, and the rest had to be paid in yearly installments commencing from April 1st, 2021 to March 31st, 2031. Now in January of 2021, Bharti Airtel moves an application before the Supreme Court seeking correction of the arithmetic errors in the calculation of the dues and adjoined by Vodafone in July. To which SC was like that it has said not just once but twice and thrice that AGR demand can't be recomputed. Now senior advocate Mukul Rohatgi, representing Vodafone India, said the figures are not cast in stone, adding that tribunals don't have the power of review but they can correct arithmetical errors. He submitted that they were not seeking any extension of time. After some more drama, the Supreme Court asked the Government of India for its response. Now, what the government has had in its mind to resolve this has become pretty clear now, and I'm just going to present those straight facts to you all. So first, to encourage investment, 100% foreign direct investment (FDI) under automatic route has been permitted in telecom industry, and all safeguards will apply. Second, non-telecom revenue will be excluded on prospective basis, that's from now, from the definition of AGR. So it's basically not for the previous revenues, right? It's from now on. Third, from the 1st of October 2021, delayed payments of license fee and the spectrum users charges will attract interest rate of SBI's MCLR. That MCLR is basically the lowest rate at which any bank can provide you loan at, plus 2% instead of the previous MCLR plus 4% rate. And the interest will be compounded annually instead of monthly, and the penalty and interest on penalty will be removed. Fourth, the moratorium / the deferment of up to 4 years in annual payments of dues arising out of the AGR judgment and spectrum purchase in the past auctions. And this has been a big boon for Vodafone, so it can actually rise back on its feet and actually do some good business because of this. And lastly, government has the option to convert the due amount pertaining to the said as previously deferred payment by way of equity at the end of the moratorium / deferment period, and the guidelines for which will be finalized by the Ministry of Finance. The telecom industry has reacted very positively to it, with Sunil Bharti Mittal, Airtel founder, said that the moratorium has accelerated the need for a tariff hike, and to get to rupees 200 will be a very justified approach to tariff hike. The 200 rupees that he's talking about here is the average revenue per user that the company is aiming for, which is like a good increase in revenue for Airtel to pay off their dues early as well. KM Billa of VI said that these reforms will bring alive the digital aspirations of 1.3 billion people and accelerate India's journey to be a digitally powered economy. And Nick Reed, CEO of the Vodafone Group, said that we commend the resolve showed by the Government of India under PM Modi's leadership to find a comprehensive solution that would support a competitive and sustainable telecom sector in India. So looks like things are to get better for the industry, but things are only expected to work only if the three players are to cooperate with each other by sharing hardware resources and also maintain a good competition, which will be good for the users. So that if you like my content, can continue to make more videos. If you watched till here, please do subscribe and comment your thoughts about this video. Please. It gives a little more incentive to research and make these videos. Also, I have linked an article regarding how bad the situation is for Vodafone compared to other telcos, which I felt was an interesting read and recommend you all to read as well. Thanks.